that could come back to bite her.
Right. It's all evidence, people. It's all evidence.
Yep.
Well, as they say, innocent until proven guilty. But one person who we know is guilty because she admitted she was guilty is Miss Jen Shah. I wasn't as shocked as you were, I don't think. I don't think. I don't know. I mean, to me,
You saw the news. What happened? You saw the news that Jen Shah pled guilty, and then what?
I said, it's not about me and I don't need to prove myself right. But I've been saying here behind the velvet rope that when the feds knock on your door, people, they don't knock for no reason. And there's a case that has been years and years and years in the making. And are you innocent when the feds knock? No, not really. So they're
not innocent until proven guilty, but
innocent until proven guilty. But this is the feds and they're knocking. And so I mean, where did you think this was the end? And then I say, how many cases actually go to trial? And so to me, it was just like, of course, this happened on the eve of trial or right before. Yeah, you're guilty. So I don't know. I mean, I wasn't as shocked as you and the rest of I was, I guess, shocked that it happened, but I really wasn't. I was more shocked about Erika and Tom divorcing the minute we heard that on Ian, like, what? And I don't understand. And then, yes, this whole shit show of 3 years unfolded before our eyes. I don't know. Once this happened, I was like, of course she pled guilty. Like, what is she going to go to trial?
See, and I thought she was going to go to trial. But maybe it was just part of my deep desire for this to happen so much because I wanted to hear Stu testify. I wanted to know what Stu knew. I was ready to be in New York for the trial. I was ready for this trial to happen. So maybe it was part of my own disappointment that we're not going to get to see this evidence come out. But also she was so animate about, I am innocent. I am going to trial. I am being set up. She was selling shirts. And then to get down to it and plea, it was telling to me that it was the first time she was in the courtroom, the first time she kind of saw the prosecutor, the judge. And that was like the week before she pled. I think that last pretrial conference gave her some of the, oh, this is real. Because of COVID, she'd been doing everything by Zoom from Utah. It's a lot different when you're zooming into a courtroom and kind of watching it unfold than when you're actually there with the judge looking down at you from the bench saying, do you understand how much time you are facing? Do you understand what this looks like? And when you looked at how big the restitution was, then it makes sense. Do you spend that money on a trial or do you just start chipping away at that massive amount of restitution? It's a lot of restitution.
Like 9 something, right?
Yeah, like over 9 million, which, and this is on top of all the other defendants who have had millions in restitution. How much money was taken in this case? We've never gotten a total figure, but we're now, I mean, you have to assume in the tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions, based on the amount of restitution in these cases.
And that's what that means as far as like where we see a 9, that means that she made at least $9 million. Someone knows this for basically sure.
They believe that she took more than that because they're asking for restitution of 9 million because you also have all the other defendants. So you've now got this restitution kind of stacking up in the amounts that they're going after. And we haven't seen Stu sentenced yet. Well, we haven't seen Jen sentenced yet either. It'll be interesting to see how much restitution he gets or how much restitution is asked for from him. But it's a fair bit of restitution. She's going to go to prison. And so when she took this plea, she had to know this is not just $9 million, but it's $9 million and I can't work and I'm going to prison.
Do you think that she has $9 million like just sitting around?
I have no idea. It's odd to me that they seemed to not have a ton of fixed assets. And that's what came out through this. I mean, it was Stu, the feds put in the forfeiture order, his house and other things like that. But there wasn't that same thing with Jen. They weren't listing properties. So does she not have those? Was she treating, the money coming in like water and it was coming in and getting spent so that it could never be tied down? Or are those assets elsewhere that haven't been identified? Who knows?
Who knows? And when
I feel like it was maybe a flowing river. It was like, there's more coming. So we'll just, throw a $60,000 birthday party, live in the Shaw Chalet, shop till we drop, have 6 assistants, and the river's never going to, dry up.
Which is complete arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
which that's, you know, to your point where there's these Zooms and then she's in a courtroom. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that's the point that where she said this is real. But I've been saying all along, I thought she was, you know, that didn't shock me that she pleaded guilty, but I got the sense from her more so than Erika, maybe, that she just truly feels like, what did I do wrong? Like I personally believed her, and I want to know your thoughts. Like when she looks at Andy Cohen in the cast and she's like, I'm innocent. Like, do you think that she thought she was innocent? Or, and there's no right answer, or do you think she knew she wasn't and she just was Jen Shah? Hello, reality stars don't go to prison, baby.
I think she thought she was being unfairly targeted by the feds. And, you know, this is what everybody does. And this is how marketing practices work. And you say fraud, I say marketing. And we had already seen the FCC and the FTC get involved with her and depose her and Stuart Smith. When he pled guilty, they added a charge for perjury in connection with lying under oath in that investigation. So she'd already been investigated by a government agency where they're saying, this isn't okay. This is beyond marketing practices. And then she kept going. So at some point when you choose to keep going, you have to be aware that the government thinks that you're wrong, even if you think that you're right. I think that Jen thought she was smarter than everybody and that it's all fine and they just don't understand. And so what if the FTC tries to fine us again for marketing practices, whatever, they fine us, like in the amount of money that you're making, are you willing to pay the fines and be like, oh, that's the cost of doing business. It's fine. I really think that's where she was, but they did change their business practices after that, as alleged by the feds, not just in the press release they put out after she pled, but also in the initial investigation. After that deposition, she started to use encrypted messaging so that it was harder to trace. They changed the way they formed their companies. So she was doing more to hide it. If you think that they're wrong and you're right, why take more efforts to hide it?
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I do think that there's a lot of her that was just like, you're right. You say fraud. I say just, you know, these are smart business practices. Like I didn't force anyone to give me the money, you know, like why you don't have to give me the money if you don't want it. Like I didn't do anything wrong. You handed the money over to me. So what? It's your problem. I think she really thought that she was right. And yet, and then like, well, they don't agree with us, even though we're right. So let's hide this. Like, I think it was like a little bit of both. Like, I mean, you have valid points. Like, why would you do this stuff if you really thought you didn't have anything to hide? But I think she thought she was right, but that they didn't agree with her.
She doesn't want to get hassled by the FTC again. She's like, look, we'll just
Yeah.
make it harder for them to come after me. We've learned. It's interesting in fraud cases. There's definitely some personalities that you see over and over again. We see it with Tom Girardi and Jen Shah. The outsized level of arrogance is different. The